So today is a very exciting day. I take delivery of my brand new car today. It's maybe a little bit bittersweet because I obviously am trading in my old car, which I absolutely love and has treated me really well over the past couple of years. But I don't know, I'm a little finicky with cars. I get bored easily and it's time for a change. So we're doing that, and today's the day we go pick up the new one. And I just wanted to show you guys all the cool new tech in my new car. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, although you probably know. It's probably in the thumbnail or something. But I'm not going to tell you, but you'll find out soon. So this is my current ride. It is a 2017 Audi A4, and man, I need an ND filter on this lens or something. There's all kinds of blowing out all these highlights. How about we stand in the garage? Is that better? Maybe it's a little better. Yeah, 2017 Audi A4. This car has been phenomenal. I have nothing but good things to say about it, and it is going to be the last time that I ride in it, so that's a little sad. So guys, this whole thing started maybe a couple of weeks ago. I normally keep up on car news to a pretty good extent, and I was aware that that Audi had come out, I guess at this point a couple months ago, but with their new A6. Completely restyled, completely new interior, a whole bunch of new tech. And as I am a tech person and I tend to like new technology in my vehicle, it would seem very interesting to me. I was intrigued by the new interior of the A6, and also having a little bit of extra space. It was a little bit appealing. I don't often have a lot of people in my car, but when I have any passengers beyond one and they have to sit in the back seat of the A4, it's a little cramped, especially if they're larger individuals. The leg room is fine, I guess, for most people, but for some, it's not enough. So in any event, like that whole combination, sorry if this camera is a little shaky, I'm trying not to look at it. But anyway, that combination of factors led me to look into the A6. So when I was doing that, I kind of became soured on the idea, because I was at the dealership and I saw one, and it wasn't like I used to race a Mustang, like when I was a youth, and it was exciting. I loved driving that car, and the A6 just didn't give me any of the tinglies. It didn't give me that feeling that I want when I'm driving my car. Even if it's my daily driver, I still want to feel like I'm enjoying driving the car, and the A6 almost gave me like none of that. It was like almost a sterile feeling ride, and wasn't exciting. The salesman wasn't into it. Like, he wasn't. I asked him at one point, I was like, hey, so sell me this car. Like, what about this car is what makes me want to drive this car, And he was boring. Like, he didn't care. It's like he was like, oh, well, the ride's really nice, and Audi warranty and whatever. Like, he wasn't selling me the car. The car wasn't selling me itself. The redesigned interior was nice. Audi interiors are great, but at that point I was like, maybe let me look at what else is out there. And at that point I started looking around, and I found this car that I'm going to pick up right now. And the amount, when I went to look at it and to test drive it, and then I did some research online and watched the videos and whatnot, and the amount of technology in this vehicle is insane. And I guess that's all I'll say until we see it. And we are turning into the dealership. What dealership? BMW. And I know it's kind of a sin to go from Audi to BMW, but I don't know. This is me not caring. That's her. So, there she is. This is a 2020 M340i. And we'll talk a little bit more when I'm not standing in the showroom looking like a weirdo filming the car. So there she is, guys. She is at home where she belongs. This is my new 2020 BMW M340i. And we'll do a quick walk around here. Hopefully I'll be able to blur out my license plate. Oh, it is bright. Let's get this. There we go. That's a little more in control. But that is an aggressive profile on a car that's supposed to just be a sports sedan, and I love it. So it's now actually the next day. I was in the BMW dealership for a while. When you buy a car from BMW, they actually provide you with a full walkthrough of all the car's features and whatnot from somebody called a BMW Genius. I guess it's kind of an Apple term at this point, but whatever, who cares? The guy knew the car, and they know all the new technology features, and they kind of walk you through the infotainment system and all that. And I kind of wanted to film him doing it, but the way he was explaining it to me and the way I kind of had to interact with what he was doing to like input my personal preferences and whatnot, it just wasn't conducive to video, so I figured I would just do it the next day. So I've been able to spend a full day with the car at this point, and it's awesome. This car is something else. So I'm not a car reviewer. I'm not going to go over with you the full specs of the car and the performance and driving it and whatnot. I can just tell you that so far it has been absolutely amazing, and the exhaust note that comes from this thing gives me goosebumps. But let's go over the whole infotainment system and the technology that BMW has packed into this new M340i. So sorry for this glare over here, but once again, not a professional car reviewer, so we're doing the best we can here. Let's start with the instrument cluster, and BMW has moved over to a full digital cluster. This is very similar to what we're seeing on a lot of other premium auto manufacturers. Audi's had their virtual cockpit for a while, and I had that in my previous car. Mercedes has a version of this as well. A lot of other car manufacturers are going to full digital as well because it provides you with the opportunity to do more customization and show more data and information to the driver. So, while I guess, there's a complaint that this could potentially have a higher rate of failure than a mechanical gauge, it also provides some really tangible benefits. So right now we are in Sport Plus mode. You can see that on the lower right-hand side. And as you change through your modes, your driving modes, so we got Sport Plus, Sport Individual, Sport Traditional, and we have Comfort mode, and you can see that the highlights around the tach and the speedometer change. And then you have Eco Pro. So obviously each one of these is going to be focused on a different kind of driving. Eco Pro changes the tach to fuel gauge, to a fuel mileage meter, because it's obviously focused on conserving energy rather than just going real fast, which this car can definitely do. So we switch back into sport mode, and then on the right hand side, right over here, inside of the tach, you can change which data is displayed. So right now it's actually giving you a live readout of the horsepower and torque that the engine is producing. So if I do a little revving, you can see that the torque actually goes up, the horsepower goes up a little bit. But when you're on the highway and you're really hitting it, then those meters are very active, and it's really cool to watch. You could also see in the middle of the screen the map is there. I'm currently off of a road. I'm in my driveway, so it's not going to show anything, but your map appears there as well. And then obviously your speedo and your gas gauge on the left. But if we press this button on the stalk, you could see that you could scroll. You could choose to display your media information. You could choose to just display the gear that you're in and the driving mode. This is mileage meter. This is your total mileage driven, including the total miles in the car. So yesterday I put 62 miles on the car. A G meter, which is which is really cool and something I'll probably never use, except if I maybe take this to the track or something. But yeah, so this will show you the lateral G's as you're doing as you're turning and accelerating and whatnot, and then back to horsepower and torque. So this is your gauge cluster, and it is pretty neat. So if we look out beyond the dashboard and right above the steering wheel, we see the heads-up display. Now, the heads-up display is, again, very configurable. Height, you could even tilt it different ways if you want, as well as display different information. Right now, the way I have it set up is that it shows you the speed limit of the road that you're on, your current speed, and then tach. So if I rev, we get a little bit of action there. The heads-up display will also show you, if you want it to, your media selection. So if I go like this and I'm hitting a button on the steering wheel right now and scrolling through some Sirius XM stations, and that showed up right next to the speedometer. You could also have it display in that same area. It'll display your navigation instructions, so you don't have to look down at the screen if you don't want to. And also you can have the speedometer actually flash or give you an indicator if you are exceeding the speed limit. So some people really want to know when they're speeding, some people really don't want to know when they're speeding, and you can have the car tell you or not. I actually turned that off. I found it a little bit distracting. I mean, if I was 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, it would start flashing, and I did not want that. Yeah, I turned that off. Here's our infotainment display, and I've zoomed way out on our map just to kind of make it a little less obvious, I guess, what my exact address is. But before we get into that, let's just go down here and look at these buttons. Now, on a lot of cars, they all have preset buttons. That's obviously nothing new. Most of the time it's just for radio stations. But on this car, it's a little bit different. Each one of these buttons can be mapped to not only go to a radio station, but to actually do functions in the car. It could basically be mapped to anything that you could do in the infotainment system itself. So what I have set up, and I kind of did this quick and dirty just as an example, is instead of having this go to a radio station, I have one of my buttons here set up to go to presets. So when I hit presets, well, no, turn off. Let's not get any strikes. But when I hit presets, it brings up this list, and then I could scroll through my radio presets. So you could put up to 150 radio stations in here instead of just having 8 preset stations. That frees up the rest of these buttons to do whatever you want. And what I have set up is, so the button 1 will navigate me to home. Button 2, I just put in a random address, which was the White House. So when you hit button 2, it actually will start navigation to whatever address you had chosen, just automatically. So if you have, so I have, button 1.
Expected drive time is 1 hour and 7 minutes.
There you go. So right now I have button 1 set up to home, so if I hit it, I'll navigate to my house. Button 3, I have radio presets. Button 4, traffic info, so it'll show you the local traffic. Button 5, I have just trip data, so this just gives you some stats on your latest trip and how you've been driving. Button 6 I have set up as the news. This car has it's connected, so it actually has current news set up. I mean, this is a touchscreen. I'm just using the scroll wheel here just to make things a little easier on the viewer. But yeah, you could scroll through all random news stories from recent news stories that have been coming up. You could actually click on them, and you could have the car read it to you.
Russia says no plans to install new missiles unless U.S. deploys them. Moscow, Reuters, Russia will not deploy new missiles.
So obviously while you're driving, you don't want to be reading the news, but maybe you want to stay up on current events, and the car will actually just read all the news stories out to you. A couple other buttons I have here. Button 7 is the weather. So again, this is a connected car. So if you hit the button, it shows you the current weather, and you could actually dive down deeper. So today is Sunday, and it'll show you like morning, midday, evening, and night. And then you can choose like, what's going to happen tomorrow. So pretty neat as far as what you can do with all the preset buttons. Also, this screen itself is fully configurable the way you want to have information displayed to you. If you don't want your map there, you don't have to have it. If you don't want your music selection or you don't want your communication stuff, you don't have to have any of this in any specific place. If you hit this button up here, you can change around all of your widgets. So if I don't want the map here, I just hit this button, and then you could select what you want there instead. So I don't know, maybe I want my sport displays there instead. So then you're done, and now you have your G meter, your horsepower, and your torque there instead of your map. And there are 3 screens of this, so you can configure your console to display whatever information you want in whatever order you want, and the touchscreen is very responsive. I actually do like having the map here, so I'm going to switch this back to map. That's weather. There we are, map view. Sure, okay. So done. So now we're back into the map view, and when you click on a widget, it'll bring you full screen into that widget. And remember, we had navigated to the White House before, so we now are showing our route, and you can see that there are actually no buttons. I just kind of ruined the surprise. There are no buttons showing on the main screen as you are driving. Go away, stuff. There it is. So this is the way the screen will look as you're driving around. Well, in order to get access to be able to change things or do different things or cancel the route, what do? Well, you just move your hand close and the buttons come up. So you could cancel the route if you want, and then it just brings you back to your regular map location. So that is pretty neat. A lot of cars have backup cameras these days. That's, again, nothing new. I did not opt for the parking package, which gives you like the full 360-degree image over here, where you could kind of you can maneuver the cameras around the car. But this in and of itself is actually pretty sophisticated. You see it shows like almost a radar of what's in front and what's in back of the car, and you can see that there's a little green spot up there. There's a bush right up there, so it sees that there's something up there, and it lets you know as it gets closer in what areas. And it's very detailed as far as how far away it is and the size of the object that is close to the car. Also, you have over here a fairly high resolution backup camera, which I like. Some are pretty crappy. This one is not, and it shows you, potentially which, what way you can cut the wheel and end up. So I could potentially just run right into the mailbox if I wanted to do that. But yeah, the parking assist package is really impressive with what it can do as far as a 360 camera and manipulation of the image. I don't have that in this car, but that's all right. The car also has something called driver profiles, and when I click on it, you can see that it knows who the driver is. Well, how does it know that? It's actually mapped to the key. So the car comes with 2 different keys. I have one of them mapped to myself, one of them mapped to my wife. So when I get in the car with my key, it knows who I am, and it knows how I like to drive. It knows how I have my infotainment set up. It knows how I have my seat position. It knows how I have my mirrors and all that stuff. So without having to configure anything or hit any buttons, because of the key, it knows that Brian Stroh is driving this car, and it automatically sets up everything so that I am comfortable while I'm driving. You can also put it in guest mode if you want. This kind of resets everything to default, and you could do that, I guess, if somebody new is driving your car and you want to let them experience the car without changing anything permanently. But yeah, the driver profiles are pretty neat. One of the more interesting things that BMW has chosen to put into the infotainment system is the owner's manual. Now, you can get a printed copy too, but it's all here, and you could do different searches, or you could just kind of deep dive down into different topics. But user help, I actually found to be really an interesting thing that they've put in here, because if you want to know how to do something, they have videos for you.
Automatically switches off the engine when the vehicle stops. This prevents unnecessary fuel consumption. The engine automatically starts again to continue driving.
So yeah, there are videos on all kinds of different topics, explaining different systems, showing you how to use stuff. And I guess, you know, for especially if somebody is brand new to the car like I am, these videos can be pretty helpful. The last thing that I want to show you guys is the lighting. Now I got the ambient lighting package, and you can see right here that there's a blue line right under my vent. And I also have it on this side too, and then it's on the door. It's in the door handles, it's under it's in the footwell. It's everywhere, and you could change this to any number of different colors, as well as have it white with this color highlight. So if you do like blue with white trim, the trim will be white, and then like the lighting down there will be blue. So driving at night, it actually makes for a really, really interesting cabin experience. Figured I'd get this car into the garage for you guys so you can see the lighting a little bit better, but you can see it right there, the trim here and the trim here, and then over on the doors, and then down in the footwell a little bit you could see it, but obviously much better at night. There's also something called path lighting on the exterior of the car, and I'm a little cramped here in the garage, but so the door handles are illuminated, and then it projects down onto the ground a pathway so that you can have some better lighting around the car as you're walking towards it after you unlock it. So say you're walking to your car at night in the middle of a parking lot or something like that, and you unlock the car, the path lighting actually illuminates around the space so that maybe no surprises are waiting for you when you get there. So guys, that's it. That is all the technology, or at least most of the technology inside my new car. I love this thing. I'm gonna take it for a ride. Thanks for watching, guys. Get subscribed to the channel. We'll get back to PC content real soon, I promise, but this thing is just too fun. I gotta take it out on the road. See you guys later.